got a lot to get to today. Howard joins us at 11:30. We will air the Fletcher Cox retirement press conference coming up in the 1 o'clock hour. Daily Mock, of course. Big Phillies win last night. It looked like it was a little dicey when they blew it, but they came back to win the game. Yeah. Big-time pitching out of Turnbull. We'll get to the Phils and a lot of takeaways, including a victory lap for Hugh. But we got to start with something that I keep hearing at WIP, and I'm going to lose my mind.
What's that?
Well, I mean, we all know on this show, your stance on offense compared to defense.
The luxury.
Yeah, right. Defense
is a luxury, not a necessity.
Yeah, there you go. We have that from a former, this guy, 80 sacks in the NFL. You wouldn't know and listen to this show. But it's not just you. I'm listening to Richie the last couple days. He's giving me all these scouting reports on offensive linemen. He wants to trade up for an offensive lineman, which, again, the idea of an offensive lineman I'm not against that. And then I got Elliott last week. Listen to this, talking about, hey, maybe 2 of the first 3 picks. Let's just throw them on offense as well.
There's just so much speed. There's so much speed in this class. Troy Franklin out of Oregon, a guy 6'3", stretched the field at Oregon. So if you look at 22, I think they're most likely to take an offensive lineman there. But in the 50s, if some of these guys fall, I think receiver is going to be the best player on the board. And it is a position of need. Like their third receiver spot is an important one. Devontae and AJ have stayed remarkably healthy. If, God forbid, knock on wood, one of them were to go down for an extended amount of time, and you take someone in the first 2 rounds that has an outside receiver body with speed, that could be beneficial. And they still haven't paid Devontae. Well, I think they will. It doesn't hurt to have a stud rookie on your roster at the position. So,
well, it hurts if you don't have any defense. All I keep hearing from everyone here, Hugh and Richie and Kyle and Elliott, is to double down on offense, to keep going with more
double
offense.
Down. Why not? Well, give that man as many weapons as he possibly can.
Oh, my goodness gracious. All right, so Hugh, you really want him to double down on offense again?
Would you be mad? Like, seriously, Joe, I'm going to ask you a question. Since you're asking me this question, I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
Would you be mad if what was his name? Brock Bowers was here? I was about to say Brock Purdy.
I love Brock Bowers. I do.
I was about to say Brock Purdy.
You're going to start a whole nother debate if you bring up Brock Purdy.
Yeah, that's why I was making sure.
So, listen, Brock Bowers is an awesome prospect, but the bottom line is I cannot get on board with this idea of doubling down on more offense. And it seems like that's what you want, offense.
Brock Bowers.
Forget Brock Bowers. That's one guy.
How can I forget him?
Well, because that's just one guy. But you want to double down on offense.
Yes, because if we're outscoring – if we're scoring 30 or 40 points clip, if we're at the historic rate of scoring in the NFL, I really don't care who you put out there on defense as long as they don't mess up the assignment. Just know what you're supposed to do because you're probably going to be playing teams that are going to be playing catch-up anyway. Like, as long as you have a competent defense and a defense that's good enough to match up well and get after the quarterback, I'm okay with that.
You're okay with that?
I'm okay with that. I feel like the biggest issue that this defense had last year was they were incompetent.
I disagree. They didn't have players.
Okay,
James
that's an
Bradbury's
argument.
competent. He's smart. He's been a Pro Bowl corner. He can't run anymore.
Yeah, there are certain guys on here that I feel like they're going to have to be replaced. No question about that. But for the most part, I think that this defense is good enough to compete for a title. I think so. They're not going to dominate. I'm not comparing them to the 2023, 2024 Kansas City Chiefs defense. I'm not doing that, Joe. I don't think they have to be that. I really don't. I'm not even comparing them to the 2023, 2024 San Francisco 49ers or the Baltimore Ravens defense. I'm not doing any of that. But if they can score enough points and compete, I think they'll be okay.
All right. Am I in Philadelphia? I just have a question. Am I sitting in Philadelphia right now?
The city of brotherly love.
No,
yes.
The city that was built on defense. Sometimes I walk in here and I'm like, what city am I in?
You're thoroughly irritated.
Well, I can't believe it. No, I don't want to double down on offense. The Eagles' priority in this draft needs to be defense. They need playmakers and big-time players on the defensive side. They don't have a single corner right now. Not one corner. Not that I feel good about. I mean, Keely Ringo might be your guy. I don't know if he could play yet.
See, that's your problem. You don't feel good about it. I keep giving you options,
but
you don't want
if
them.
he was so good, he would have got on the field last year. He barely got
on He didn't get on the field last year. There's a money component that goes along with some of these guys.
Baloney. If you could play, you get on the field in the NFL.
No, but sometimes there's a money component that goes along with it. Well,
then the Eagles better not talk to me about winning. If it's about winning, forget the money. So I have no corners on this team right now that I feel really good about. Slay, fine. I think he's fine at this point. Not great, not bad. He's fine. Bradbury cooked. Keely Ringo, I have no idea if he can actually cover big-time receivers in the NFL. Eli Ricks got cooked every time he was on the field last year. And Avonte Maddox, who was out in free agency for a month and nobody wanted and has the kind of contract where he could easily get cut. These are my corners. Isaiah Rodgers, who didn't play for a full year. And then I have a pass rush who just lost their best pass rusher. I have a linebacking core that has Devin White, who's gotten worse every year of his career.
Not a Hall of Fame. He's a Super Bowl champion, though.
So are a lot of guys. Rick Lovato's a Super Bowl champ. He's a long snapper.
Whoa. Don't come after Rick Lovato.
No, Rick, if you listen, that wasn't a shot at you. The point is, lots of guys are on rosters.
It was
Corey,
a shot.
Corey Clement's a Super Bowl champion. I don't care if Devin White was on the Bucs team 4 years ago. They don't have a good enough defense right now. The priority has to be defense. And then let me throw some things at you, just to remind everyone what city we're in, okay? The Eagles, as a franchise, have never, ever, and you should know this because you were part of some of them, reached a conference championship game without a top 10 defense. Not one time. Ever.
I think this defense could potentially be a top 10 defense.
Top 10? In what sport? The NFL?
Why are you talking with such a high pitch?
Because, Hugh, they don't have good enough players.
I think
they were a bottom 3 defense last year. How'd they get in the top 10?
How did they get in the top 10?
Yes.
That offense helps them out tremendously.
No. How does the defense get in the top 10?
Because the offense helps them out and they make teams one-dimensional. They score so many points that teams have to come out and throw the ball, and that's when they get it with that. Aha.
All right, so the Eagles have never, ever reached a conference title game without a top 10 defense. The last 7 times they have been top 8 in points allowed, they've gotten to the title game. 01, 02, 03, 04, 08, 17, 22. And let me throw this one at you. As we have created this myth that defense is a what?
Luxury.
Not a necessity. In the last 20 Super Bowls, 16 of the last 20 champions have been top 10 in passer rating allowed. If you can't stop the opposing quarterback, you do not win a championship. That's it.
And I would venture to say most of those teams that you're talking about, as far as penalties and things of that nature, they probably didn't make a whole lot of mistakes. This team last year was like egregious in some of the stuff that they did, mental errors, all of that stuff.
But I would argue if you're less talented, you're going to make more mistakes. You're out of place. You're confused. Your ability doesn't let you get to where you got to go. You hold because I'll give you Eli Ricks. He had a big holding in one of those games. Mm-hmm. Why? Because he can't cover the guy. You don't Sauce Gardner doesn't hold because he sticks to the receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Corners that can't cover hold. I just think part of their issues was they weren't good enough.
You know what? When I think about the Patriots in some of the years that they won. Now, I give you that they had some good players like Richard Seymour and all those guys early on. But as they got like some of those championships that they won in the latter years, their defense wasn't that good. They were a little long in the tooth. But I'll tell you one thing that I do remember about those Patriots defense, they were smart. Tom Brady led that team with the offense that they had, and they were scoring a lot of points and things like that. But that defense was smart. I think that we don't put enough credit on the fact that Coach Fangio is going to come in here, to me, and he's going to make that team a much smarter team, like defensively up front. The back end is going to play a lot better. I just feel like I hear what you're saying, Joe, and you do need talent. I'm not silly. I'm not stupid. I know that there has to be some level of talent on this football team, but I also feel that you have to be smart when you're out there playing. And this team was not smart. I think, put it like this. I feel like they were talented enough to be better than they were down the stretch last year. Do you agree with that?
Well, they probably shouldn't have been the worst defense.
Yeah, they shouldn't have been the worst. So
but they weren't good.
So they weren't great. But I feel like part of that was because they were just doing bonehead stuff. Real bonehead stuff.
Well, they were. But that being said, I mean, some of those defenses you mentioned with the Patriots, the same defensive coordinator was Matt Patricia.
Yeah, that's crazy, ain't it?
Well, it's because I think the Eagles' defense stunk. I'm not saying Patricia's great, and he had Belichick with him. 215-592-9494. It feels like colleague after colleague I got around here, from Hugh to Richie to Elliot, I'm sure Kyle's going to jump in on this, wants to double down on offense in this draft.
Double down.
The Eagles have 3 picks in the top 53. What I would consider doubling down is if 2 of those end up being offensive players.
Oh, you know what? I just thought about something.
What do you got now?
The Detroit Lions defense wasn't that great. If they would have made a couple more plays offensively, they probably could have been representatives in the Super Bowl because they were offensive. They were not a great defense.
They were not, but that's why they didn't win the Super Bowl. That's why they lost.
No, they lost because their quarterback kind of.
No, stop. Their defense got torched by Purdy in the second half.
That was some bad officiating.
Ball bounced off the face mask.
Officiating too.
Don't forget
you guys.